A slow continent, rapids plain. The verdant grassland had been dyed another color with blood, and countless corpses were lying on the grassland. At this time, the corpse collection team of the Eagle Kingdom is picking up the corpses. Occasionally, people who have no breath will make up for it. Whether it is an enemy or a friend, after all, those who are not seriously injured have long been taken away by the large army. Most of the people who can be left here are helpless. Instead of letting them die slowly and painfully, it is better to give him a good time. There were not many people in the corpse collection team, even less than 10 people. After all, the large team was busy chasing after the victory, and all of them were dispatched to chase the retreating troops of the jailing kingdom. Only one of their teams is left to make up for the knife. After the knife is repaired, they will immediately catch up with the large army to reunite, and prepare to participate in the next battle. The leader of the corpse collection team is Amudakang Lang. He is a small noble in the Eagle Kingdom. He belongs to the same family as the commander of this battle. Otherwise, this job would not fall on him. After all, this job is still some of them are oily. Although most of the well-equipped weapons have been taken away, it is impossible for the large army to search so carefully. There must be some nobles who have valuable things in the corpses. About 100 meters away from the corpse collection team, a person in the corpse pile suddenly moved his finger twice. System loading. It was detected that the host was seriously injured, and welfare treatment has been used. The host's injuries are healed, and the system is officially launched. At this time, Ronan was lying on the ground, unable to move. Although the system had healed his injuries, the constantly rolling memories in his mind made him have a splitting headache and could not think. After about 10 minutes, Ronan finally slowed down. Sorting through the memories in his mind, Ronan understood what his current situation was. There is no doubt that he crossed, or the difficulty of hell. The original owner of his body was the second son of an earl of Jailing Kingdom. He was a simple and honest man because of a series of reasons such as inheritance rights. He was framed by his eldest brother and others. Half a month ago, the Eagle Kingdom suddenly attacked and plundered the village at the junction between the Jailing Kingdom and the Jailing Kingdom. The war was about to break out. His eldest brother was sent to the Jailing Kingdom to organize the vanguard against the Eagle Kingdom in order to bribe the relationship. Then he died in the battle just now. Jailing's army also fled to Jianmen Fort in the Rocky Valley, the last barrier for the kingdom to face the invasion of eagles. Once Jianmen Fort is broken, the army of the Eagle Kingdom will drive straight into the hinterland of the kingdom. He sighed that life is not easy. Before crossing, it was a start, and after crossing, it was also a start. Fortunately, he had the Golden Finger system, which was necessary for travelers in previous life web articles. System, Manual. Hello, host, this system is called the Glory Riding and Slashing System, which is formed by combining the two games of Glory Spirit of War and Mount and Blade. It can provide relevant enhancement bonuses for the host. Currently, only some functions are open, and the rest of the functions are available. The opening conditions need to be explored by the host. This system is currently online. Is it officially activated? Then why don't you say it, enable it? If not, I'll take my head and fight with those guys who make up the knife over there. The system has been officially launched, and the first template is being extracted for the host, and the template Orakai has been extracted. The following are the initial properties of the host. Name, Rodridi Fernando, Ronan, Level, LV1, 0/100, Health, 100% Stamina, 100% Rage, 0, Rage can be increased in battle. Rage is used to release skills. Rage will decrease with time after the battle is stopped. Strength, 14, affects attack power and strength skills. Stamina, 12, affects HP, HP recovery speed and stamina bar. Agility, 16, affects attack speed, reaction speed, movement speed, limb flexibility and agility skills. Intelligence, 10, affects the acquisition of experience, the reading speed of books, and intelligence skills. Charisma, 10, affects the number of troops, communication skills and charisma skills, general skills. All skill levels cannot exceed 1/3 of the main attributes. Iron Bone, 3, add 2 HP per point stamina, power attack, 3, plus 8% melee damage per point, strength, strong throw, 1, plus 10% throwing damage per point, strength, strong bow, 2, plus 10% bow damage, strength per point, shield defense, 0, plus 5% shield durability and stamina per point, running, 4, 10% walking speed per point, agility, riding, 2, add 10% mount movement and control per point, agility, mounted shot, 0, 10% mounted shot penalty reduced per point. Agility, healing, 1, 10% HP recovery rate per point, intelligence, exploration, 2, each point increases a certain environmental discovery ability, intelligence, tracking, 2, each point increases the amount of information acquired, intelligence, persuasion, 2, each point increases the success rate of persuading the target, charm, domination, 2, adds 5 points to the upper limit of troops per point, charm, remaining attribute points, 0 skill, fear incarnate, you alone are enough to terrify your enemies. Consumes 50 rage to reduce the morale of enemies within a 10 meter radius. Lasts 30 minutes. Do you want to receive novice equipment? Receive. The novice equipment has been directly worn. Wisteria Wood Helmet Light Armor Normal Head Protection, 15. Wisteria Wood Chainmail Light Armor Normal Body Protection, 30. Wisteria Wood Leggings Light Armor Normal Leg Protection, 15. Wisteria Wood Gauntlets Light Armor Normal Full Body Protection, 5. Pong Great Sword Excellent Blade Length, 70 cm Weight, 3 kg Damage, 35 slashes 15 Thorns. With the receipt of the novice's equipment, the broken hard leather armor on Baizi's body suddenly turned into a dark purple armor made of iron chains connected with wooden boards, and the lower body was also a wooden skirt armor, calf. He was wearing wooden leggings, his feet were the same black leather boots as before, he had a wooden pointed helmet on his head, and he wore a mask on his face that covered his mouth and the entire neck from the neck up to the bottom of the nose. On the position of the mouth of the mask, there is a pattern of a big mouth that is open to reveal the upper and lower rows of white teeth, and there is a zipper in the middle that can be opened. Feeling the extra armor on his body, the weapon hanging on his waist, and the martial skills and combat experience belonging to the snake that kept flashing in his mind, Ronan finally gained some confidence in the next battle. After all, it is impossible to fool around by playing dead. Activate the task function, the current task, give them some color to see. The corpse collection team of the Eagle Kingdom is constantly approaching you. You are obviously not wearing the armor of the Eagle Empire. If you are found, you will definitely be attacked. Instead of waiting passively, it is better to take the initiative and start the first battle in the new world. Give them some color to see. Objective: kill 5 members of the Eagle Kingdom Corpse Collection Team. Quest reward: 100 experience, 10 gold coins. Are you accepting the mission? Is there no penalty for failure? Anyway, if I want to run, I will definitely fight with them. Don't give me the reward for nothing. Take it. After accepting the mission, Ronan opened his eyes and carefully turned his head to look at the location of the soldiers of the corpse collection team. They were probably in groups of 2, only a few dozen meters apart. One group was slowly moving towards Ronan's position. Come. The soldiers of these corpse collection teams are only the lower-level soldiers of the Eagle, basically composed of peasants who have been recruited by the lords, but they are still not to be underestimated. The Eagle Kingdom makes a living by hunting and herding, and everyone basically uses hunting. Bow and machete, these 2 weapons are also standard weapons in the Eagle Kingdom. Coupled with the year-round life on horseback in the grasslands, every eagle herdsman can be a warrior and a rider, which is also what they can do in previous battles, the reason for defeating the jailing troops. The two eagle soldiers walking towards Ronan were wearing the eagle's standard fur felt hats and leather armor, carrying hunting bows and a machete around their waists. They turned over among the corpses with a wooden stick in their hands. Flip it over, and occasionally hit him with a dagger if he doesn't catch his breath. When a soldier closest to Ronan looked up and stretched his waist, he suddenly saw Ronan lying on the ground, and he was immediately attracted by the armor that Ronan was incompatible with. "Hey, this person's armor is so special. I've never seen it before. Come and have a look. I guess he's a mercenary. What's there to see? Hurry up and see if there is anything valuable on him. Hurry up and clean up the battlefield so that you can chase the big troops." The soldiers in the distance also raised their heads and looked over when they heard their voices, and two people came over to take a look. Ronan was shocked when he heard that he had been found, but he could only hold still and quietly touched the handle of the knife with his right hand. In a violent attack, he grabbed the ankle of a soldier closest to him with his left hand and pulled him directly to the ground. At the same time, he stretched out his foot and kicked the other soldier away, then quickly Akarp stood up straight, drew his knife to block the machete that was slashing in front of him, stretched his left hand and grabbed the soldier's collar and threw him towards the other soldier. When they collided with each other and their bodies were unstable, he kicked heavily on the head of the soldier who was about to get up and kicked him down again. Then he dodged sideways to the side of the machete that the soldier who was kicked away by Ronan had cut off his head. At the same time, he held the knives up while dodging and dodging. Failing to provide him with too much protection, he was directly slashed by Baizi with a knife, and he fell to the ground clutching his stomach. Ronan immediately slashed and beheaded him. He felt a gust of wind behind him. Ronan immediately lowered his body to avoid the soldiers behind him and swept him around his neck. Then he took advantage of his swipe in the air to make his standing unsteady. Striking upwards, a burst of blood sprayed Ronan's helmet, and the soldier was pierced directly from the chin by him, dying on the spot. Ding! Unlock the achievement system. The soldiers in the distance have also noticed the accident that happened on Ronan's side. Some of them drew their machetes and rushed over, while others took off their hunting bows and aimed at Ronan. The leader of their fight, Amuda Kang Lang, ran to his horse for the first time, and it seemed that he was about to run away when things went bad. At this time, the only two soldiers left by Ronan's side were also killed by Ronan, and the soldier who was brought down at the beginning was unable to stand up. After finishing the 4 soldiers, Ronan didn't have time to check the system information. He hurriedly looked in the direction of the other soldiers. When Baizi saw the arrows being released by the soldiers, Baizi rolled on a donkey and avoided the arrows. Picking up a shield while rolling, Ronan directly bowed and raised the shield and rushed towards the soldiers. The 2 soldiers who drew their swords and rushed towards Ronan immediately stopped Ronan on the way to the archer. Ronan saw them raise their shields and smashed directly at the soldier on the far left. When the soldier raised his sword to block, turned around and raised the knife to hold the scimitar. Although they blocked the pace of Ronan's charge, they also blocked the archer's range. The 2 archers had to throw away their hunting bows and drew their knives to rush over. Support! But they changed their attention when they had just run halfway, turned around and ran towards the horse, because the 2 soldiers who fought with Ronan had already beheaded by Ronan. Seeing them fleeing, Ronan took off the hunting bow from the soldier who had been beheaded by him, took the arrows and pulled them directly towards the 2 fleeing soldiers. A soldier walked over to make up for the 2 soldiers who fell to the ground and wailed. As for their leader, Ronan didn't want to chase any more, because he had already run away on horseback when he saw the situation was bad, and now he doesn't know where he went. The task is completed, and the reward has been distributed to the backpack. Congratulations on the upgrade. At the current level of LV2, 80/300, you have gained a free attribute point and a general skill point. By adding attribute points and skill points to strength and strong attack, Ronan is ready to be an excellent young man with a multifaceted development of morality, intelligence, physical beauty, and labor, so he chooses to increase his attack power first, although the initial attribute given by the Big Snake template is agility root. In addition, after being prompted by the system, Ze found out that he actually has a backpack. His backpack has 30 grids, and each grid can only hold the same kind of item, which means that Ronan cannot put all the equipment on his body in a grid, but each component must stand on a grid. Each grid is 1 cubic meter in size, and now there is nothing in his backpack except the 10 gold coins he just got. Gold coins do not occupy a grid. It turns out that I'm so strong, I knew I was lewd, so I just got up in them. Perhaps it was because of the experience of Orokai brought by the template. Ronan, who had killed for the first time, neither felt discomfort nor excitement, as if he had just completed a piece of work. Put 2 hunting bows and arrows in the backpack. Walking to the few batches of horses saved by the Eagle Corpse collector, Ronan searched the horses' luggage, found some water, dry food, some copper coins, and some daily necessities, and put all the useful ones into the backpack. Ronan was not there. After delaying, he chose a horse that was pleasing to the eye and rode on it. After all, Ronan didn't know how long the Eagle's army had been gone, and it would be troublesome if the leader who escaped found the army and came back to find him. The direction of jailing is definitely not allowed to go. Going there is sure to hit the Eagle's large army, which is no different from sending people's heads. If he went in the direction of the Eagle, Ronan didn't know if they would send a flying pigeon to pass a book or something to want him. For the sake of safety, he couldn't go. After thinking about it, it seems that the only way to go north through the Jackdaw Forest to other kingdoms is to go north. Although the Jackdaw Forest is very dangerous, Ronan is very confident about himself at this time. On the other side, the fleeing Amuda Kanglang had caught up with the main force. He walked into the tent in the center of the camp and reported to the leader of the Kanglang clan about Ronan's situation. Not long after, a team of about a dozen elite riders walked out of the camp and headed straight for the Rapids battlefield. The leader was still Amuda Kanglang. Ronan, who was checking the newly unlocked achievement system while riding forward, had no idea that danger was coming. The achievement system is unlocked when Ronan kills an enemy for the first time. Anything that Ronan does may trigger an achievement mission. Completing the achievement will give Ronan a series of rewards such as skills, specialties, and titles. Ronan now triggers an achievement: 100 people kill 100 people, 8/100, reward title 100 people kill at the edge of the forest. The terrain inside was not suitable for the horses to move, so Ronan could only loosen the reins, unload the vehicle on the horse, and patted it to let it go. I hope you can live a good life. After releasing the warhorse captured from the Eagle Kingdom, Ronan sorted out his equipment and supplies and walked into the forest. It would take nearly a month to cross the forest, and there were many ferocious beasts and alien tribes in the forest. Before crossing, I was just an ordinary good citizen who grew up under the red flag. The experience of survival in the wild only exists in the documentaries and novels I have read. Fortunately, the people of the Eagle Corpse collection team have simple tents and mosquito repellents in their luggage. Incense can make Ronan feel better. When Ronan entered the Jackdaw Forest, the Eagle riders who were chasing him also arrived at the place where they fought before. One of the cavalrymen dismounted to check the remains of the soldiers killed by Ronan, and then checked the remains of the soldiers killed by Ronan. Look at the traces of Ronan's departure direction. After the inspection, he returned to the team and said to a rider next to Amuda, "My lord, the target's strength is very strong. Although these people are herdsmen who were recruited before the war, not professional soldiers, but our people are martial, and most of the people have first-hand skills. I checked the corpse, and the wounds were very thin and not deep. Buxiang is a common weapon of jailing people, the target is quick to shoot, most of them are fatal in one blow, and he has good archery skills." "Well, I see. It seems to be a tough stubble. Seeing that he is invincible, he faked his death. Then, after our large army left, he violently killed people and left. But where did his weapons and armor come from? When we leave, we should put weapons and decent armor were taken away. He went in that direction. The rider pondered for a while. After my inspection of the surrounding traces, he should have gone to the jackdaw forest. It is estimated that he wants to pass through the forest and enter the hinterland of the jailing. It is less than a day's journey from the jackdaw forest. We should catch up now. After listening to the explanation from his subordinates, the rider turned his head to look at Amuda, who pondered for a while and said, "Chase, if we can't find him within 5 days after entering the forest, we will return." The rider nodded when he heard the words, and waved to the team behind him. The man who got off the horse to check also got on his horse, and the whole team started again in the direction where Ronan left. At this time, Ronan was struggling to walk in the dense forest. Usually, only hunters from nearby villages would enter the forest, and they would not go too deep. There was no memory of the depths of the forest in Ronan's memory. He only heard about the forest. The depths are very dangerous, and there are savage tribes, lizardmen, gnolls and other aliens living. The edge of the forest was overgrown with bushes, and it was extremely difficult for Ronan to move. He could only take the machete seized from the corpse collection team and walk in while splitting the branches that were blocking the way. Sound. Seeing that the sky was getting dark, Ronan finally walked out of the bush and entered a relatively spacious wood. Trees are scattered all over the ground. At this time, it is the end of spring, and everything is prosperous. There are not many fallen leaves on the ground, revealing a solid black ground. The trees here have not been cut down, and have grown freely for thousands of years. Many trees are hundreds of years old. The thick ones are afraid that it takes nearly 10 people to hug them, and the thinnest ones are as thick as 2 people hugging each other. Therefore, in order not to earn more nutrients from each other, the distance between them is very large, leaving a lot of open space between the thick roots that are exposed to the ground. It was very late, and the forest at night was much more dangerous than in the daytime. Ronan didn't dare to venture out at night, so he found a clearing with tree roots on 3 sides, took out the tent from his backpack, repelled insects, incense, and other items. Set up the tent, sprinkle some snake repellent powder around the tent, and light incense in the tent. Then I went outside and picked up some dry branches and some scattered dead leaves. He piled dead wood branches together and surrounded them with gravel to make a simple bonfire, and then threw dead leaves on it as a fire starter. Ronan took out the fire sticks he found in the luggage of the corpse collection team in his backpack and set it on fire. Although summer is approaching, the night in the forest is still cold. Without this fire, Ronan may not have a good night. When the fire started, Ronan took out the dry food and ate it. The dry food that the Eagle Kingdom sent to the soldiers was made of thick flour mixed with some wild vegetables. After chewing the dough, when it passed through the esophagus, his throat hurt like swallowing sand, and Ronan barely finished eating after drinking water. The dry food and water obtained from the corpse collection team were not enough to support Ronan through the forest. Fortunately, there were some cooking tools such as pots in their luggage. Ronan could find water and food by himself. After eating the dry food, Ronan opened the system's task panel, and the task had already been refreshed. Weekly Mission 1, Forest Disaster: Kill 10 wild animals. Reward: Excellent Hunting Longbow, Experience 500. Weekly Mission 2, Eliminate the Pursuers: Destroy the pursuit team sent by the Eagle Kingdom. Reward: Open the recruitment function, 5 senior Nord archers. Weekly Task 3, Fearless kills one of the Jackdaw Forest's top predators, the dire black bear. Reward: Belt of Bear's Power, Experience 1000. System Upgrade Task, Statement: FAR has a high prestige among a country. Reward: The system is upgraded to Glory Writing and Cutting 2.0. Task 1 is easy to solve, but Task 2, the Eagle Kingdom actually sent a team to chase me. Yes, I let the leader go before. That guy looks like a nobleman, he should be the one who ran back to the main force to find him. People came to take revenge on me. It seems that I have to be careful. Although I can be careful to erase the footprints so that they can't find them, the reward of this task is really itchy. Lead the soldiers, it turns out that they are waiting for me here. As for the black bear, it is difficult to deal with so many reward experience. If you complete the second task first, with the help of Nord senior archers, you should be able to complete it. As for the last one, can the system be upgraded, but the reputation of a country is still far away from me, take your time. After thinking for a while, the sleepiness gradually rose. Ronan took out the blanket from his backpack and covered him, and went to sleep wearing the armor. After all, I don't know if there will be beasts running here at night, so it's better to wear armor to be safe. Ronan's first night in the forest passed smoothly without any turbulence. When Ronan woke up, the bonfire had already been extinguished, leaving only a mass of ashes. He stood up and stretched his waist. Stiff limbs that slept all night. Ronan put away the tent and moved on. Ronan didn't know the way, so he could only rely on the compass to keep going north, because the north of Jackdaw Forest is the Holy Cross country. The forest during the day is also very dark, because the top of the head is basically blocked by the canopy of the towering trees, and only sporadic sunlight penetrates through the gaps in the leaves. Baizi holds the compass in one hand and the knife handle at his waist, carefully walking. The hunting bow was also carried on his back at this time. A running rabbit was hit by a sharp arrow, and the powerful force directly pinned it to the ground. Ronan walked over, pulled out the arrow, picked up the rabbit, and put the arrow back into his backpack. This is the third wild animal that Ronan killed. For some reason, there are not many wild animals here. After walking for a long time, Ronan only came across this rabbit and two unknown birds before, those two birds. The size was about the size of a duck, and it was flying over Ronan's head at the time. Ronan was not polite at all and directly pulled a bow and shot an arrow to send them back to the west. After they were simply handled by Ronan, they were thrown into the backpack and prepared at dinner. Ronan also learned that the items in the backpack will not spoil, but the backpack cannot put living things. While Ronan was happily roasting the rabbit, the pursuit team led by Amuda had reached the edge of the Jackdaw Forest. Next to him, he cut branches with a knife like Ronan and followed Ronan's footsteps with difficulty. On the other side, 1 kilometer in front of Jianmen Fort in the Rocky Valley, the army of the Eagle Kingdom has already stationed, and the camp is full of fireworks and cooking. On the long conference table in the Lord's Hall of Jianmen Castle, 5 nobles wearing luxurious silk and satin costumes are having a meeting. According to the reports of the spies, the Eagle Kingdom led the team this time with the chief of the Blue Wolf clan, Mukai Blue Wolf, along with several small tribes such as the Furious Dragon Orcs, the Blood Fang Orcs, and the Brown Bear clan. The total number of the enemy is about 15,000 people. Although most of them are herders recruited temporarily, the Eagle people live on nomadic herds. 1 to 10 warriors. And they're still adding reinforcements. Together with the noble coalition that had fled here, there were only nearly 8,000 people, and the professional soldiers were less than 3,000. The form was not optimistic, said a noble in a purple robe sitting on the left-hand side of the main seat. Baron Bowen is right, the number of enemies is about twice as many as ours. Although we have a favorable geographical position and there are dozens of powerful knights in the castle, we still cannot take it lightly. Jianmen Fort is the most important barrier for our country to defend the Eagle Kingdom. There is a plain behind Jianmen Fort. Once the city is broken, the Eagle will enter the hinterland of our country, so be sure to defend it. Baron Bowen continues to detect the enemy's movements. Viscount John, you must gather your soldiers to prepare for defense. The enemy is likely to attack the city at night or at dawn tomorrow. Baron Hawley, you bring a few escorts and quickly go to the territory of the Grand Duke Tully in the rear for help. Bo. Baron Ge, you go directly back to the capital to face the Holy Spirit, report the situation to your Majesty, and adjourn the meeting, said Earl Zack Blackthorn, who was seated in the main seat. As the nobles left their seats to complete their respective tasks, the hall fell into silence again. Contrary to what Earl Zack thought, Mukai did not wait. After about an hour after eating, he commanded the troops to move. The strong orcs put on crude armor and picked up wooden shields. Dozens of people carried the ladders in groups, followed by a mixed team of humans and orcs climbing the wall and archers. Iron ore is scarce in the Eagle Kingdom, and most of the soldiers' armor is leather. Only some elite soldiers and officers and nobles can wear iron chain armor, so they are more eager for the minor Alric jailing area, which is almost every few years. Attacked once, but Jianmen Fort has not yet been breached. On the city wall, the defenders of Jianmen Fort have also been ready to fight. The leaders are Viscount John, who has already put on a full set of knight plate armor, and a very tall knight. He is probably nearly 2.3 meters tall. The other soldiers are half taller. He wears a barrel-shaped helmet on his head, and his visor is full of holes. He wears heavy silver plate armor on the upper body, and the same silver armor skirt and leggings on the lower body. There are also chain armor protection at the joints. He was fully armed like a tin can, and behind him was wearing a dark red pattern with 2 battle axes crossed on it. The armor on his body was also covered with a cloth shirt with the same pattern, which was estimated to be his family crest. In his hand he held a long-handled axe gun that was longer than his height. At the end of the axe handle was a thick weighted ball with some spikes on it, and at the head of the axe was an axe on one side and an awl on the other. There is also a spearpoint axe on it. He just stood there leaning on the weapon in his hand, like a mountain, full of oppression, quite like a husband. The Eagle Siege team has been assembled. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. They stopped 300 meters in front of Jianmen Fort, and the leader was Mukai Kang Lang. Following his order, the team began to move slowly, and then they began to jog at a speed. Faster and faster, the arrows of the defending troops also fell. Jailing is mainly composed of cavalry and infantry, and there is no special archer unit. These archers are basically composed of auxiliary soldiers and temporarily recruited farmers. After the Eagle Siege team approached, their archers caused certain casualties to the defenders. Seeing that the archers were of little use, John immediately ordered them to retreat, put on a long contradiction card and stand by the battlements to prepare for defense. John also led a dozen knights wearing full armor and holding various weapons scattered on the city wall to command the battle. As the latter climbed up the city wall, the brutal battle of ascending the city began. The orc soldiers at the head held a shield in one hand and climbed the ladder in the other. There were also many soldiers below the ladder, preventing the guards from pushing it. The soldiers on the ladder were constantly being hit by heavy objects such as stones thrown from it, and they fell to the ground with a groan of pain. When he was about to climb up the city wall, he was stabbed by the soldiers guarding the city with a spear, but some of the berserkers of the angry dragon orcs still rushed to the city wall and fought with the surrounding soldiers. They let out deafening roars, their skins were bloodshot and red, and their eyes were bloodshot. They wore simple leather armor that only protected their torso, and they held crude mace, axe, and other weapons in one blow. The soldiers around him flew out with their shields and others, and some of the wooden shields were directly smashed, and even the soldiers behind were killed directly. Furious dragon orcs are said to have thin dragon blood in their bodies. Some of them can stimulate this hidden blood to drive the body's functions, so that their adrenaline soars and their muscle strength greatly increases. Such orcs are called furious dragon crazy warriors. Each of them are elites, but their ability will seriously wear down their bodies. Orcs who often go crazy usually don't live to be 30 years old. As the furious dragon berserker ascended the city, the defenders were gradually opened up. Viscount John quickly greeted the knights beside him to fill the gap. With the constant support of the knights and their attendants, as well as the supporters behind the city walls, they were wearing sophisticated armor. Professional soldiers joined the battle, and the Eagle Siege side was quickly restrained, and the place they occupied kept shrinking. Among them, the tall knight who stood beside Viscount John was the most eye-catching. He waved the heavy axe and spear in his hand with ease, and every attack could kill an enemy soldier. Many Eagle soldiers who tried to block his attack with their wooden shields paid a heavy price. Driven by his powerful force, he directly split the shield in half, and then directly cut off the soldier's arm and slashed into his body. Watching him continue to kill the eagle soldiers, the two furious dragon berserkers rushed towards him one by one. Looking at the giant axe chopped from both sides, the tall knight did not panic at all. He raised his hand. First the axe and spear stood on one side, and then twisted his body to avoid the other axe. Under the heavy armor and tall body, he was unexpectedly flexible. Flashing the giant axe, he directly held the right hand with the hard steel glove and pointed it towards the face of the furious dragon berserker, whose strength was unstable by the flashing attack. The bridge of his nose fell to the ground, and he turned his head. He first hit the opponent's unprotected knee with a weighted ball with spikes at the end of the axe handle, and then directly used the axe's spear when it bent his knees in pain. The spike pierced its neck. Then he turned around and kicked the beastman, who had been knocked down with a punch before, and was shaking his head and climbing up. After kicking him down again, he swung his axe and spear and slashed directly on its neck, decapitating it. Looking at the tall knight holding his weapon in both hands, he pushed forward and directly pushed the two soldiers who had just climbed the city wall into the air. Mu Kai turned to his deputy and asked, "Who is this person? Is he a human being?" "My lord, he is the disciplinary knight under the Earl of Blackthornsko and Boulder. Their family has served the Blackthorn family for generations. It is said that their family has the blood of mountain giants, so they are extremely tall and powerful. They can use armor and weapons that ordinary human beings can't use. Saiken is the patriarch of this giant stone family, and is a powerful man in the Jailing Kingdom. Well, he is indeed a fierce general. He should not be able to attack today. I ordered the soldiers to withdraw, and by the way, bring my bow." "Yes, my lord." The deputy made a gesture to Mu Kai, bending over, and then sent the order. The soldiers of the Eagle Kingdom began to retreat slowly. Only a dozen orc soldiers who could not get off the city wall were still fighting. Only one place of corpses was left on the battlefield. At this time, Mu Kai was pulling the longbow in his hand and aiming at Science, who was holding an orc soldier on the tip of the city wall. The original pattern is no longer visible. A shrill wind sounded, and Science just felt it, but it was too late to dodge. He could only raise his hand to block in front of him. The sharp arrow directly pierced the thick plate armguard and stuck on Science's forearm. With a painful snort, he turned his head to look at Mu Kai outside the city wall. Mu Kai was also handing the longbow in his hand to his deputy. When he turned his head back, his eyes were facing Science. Mu Kai sneered and made a gesture of cutting his throat. After that, he turned his horse's head and walked towards the camp. 2 days after this tentative attack, the two sides spent a few days in peace. Both sides were waiting for reinforcements. The Eagle side was still cutting down trees day and night to build siege vehicles. Turning back to the Jackdaw Forest, Ronan was walking slowly in the forest at this time. He had completed the weekly task 1, added the points obtained from the upgrade to the endurance and running, and received the rewarded longbow. The longbow is issued directly into the backpack and comes with 25 arrows. During this period of travel, Ronan knew the importance of his stamina, so he prepared to put all the points in the next few levels on stamina. Ronan already had an idea about how to deal with the Eagle's pursuit team. Yesterday he was chasing a hare and spotted 2 savage patrolling. Nangzin already has a plan, and now he is collecting all the materials that can be used nearby to prepare for the next battle. After all, according to his estimation, once he stops, the Eagle pursuit team will probably not be able to catch him in a day. The sky turned dark, the sun disappeared, and the moon rose high. Ronan walked back carefully by the night. He wanted to find the place where the Eagle pursuit team camped, because this was an indispensable part of his plan. Hiding behind the tree and looking out slowly, Ronan saw several Eagle soldiers sitting by the bonfire outside the tent vigil, and confirmed the location of the Eagle soldiers' camp. Ronan carefully left, trying not to make a sound make them aware. After leaving the guard range of the Eagle soldiers, Ronan quickly ran to the location of the savage tribe he discovered earlier. The savage tribe was not large, with less than 100 people, many of them were women and children, but not many elderly people. Their houses are simple shed-like items made of trees and thatch. They are dry and flammable. The camp is quiet at this time, with only a few male savages guarding the camp for possible beasts. Ronan hid behind a tree, took out a few arrows from his backpack, wrapped some rags on them, and then stained them with the oil he boiled during the day. After making 5 of these arrows, Ronan took out fire sticks, lit them, and shot them at the wild man's house. The fire spread rapidly, and the wild people rushed out of the house to put out the fire. Ronan stood up at this time and waited for the wild people to find himself. When a few savages saw Ronan, they quickly shouted in a language that Ronan could not understand. The savages all looked at Ronan's position. Following the roar of a man who looked like a leader, there were about 20 people. The famous savages rushed towards Ronan one after another. Seeing this, Ronan turned around and ran. The direction was exactly where the eagle camp was. The dark-skinned savages chased after him with weapons in their hands, and from time to time they shot a few arrows at Ronan, but they all hit the surrounding trees. Hearing the sound of getting closer and closer, several eagle soldiers in the vigil quickly woke up the other soldiers in Amuda who were resting in the tent. They all slept in their clothes and did not take off their leather armor, so after quickly preparing, he stared nervously in the direction of the voice with the weapon in his hand. As Ronan rushed out first, the savages who were chasing after Ronan also appeared in front of the eagle soldiers, recognizing that Ronan was their target, and watching a bunch of menacing savages behind him. The soldiers thought that Ronan had persuaded the wildlings to fight them together. Before they could think about it, they raised the longbow in their hands and shot a dense rain of arrows. Ronan was already prepared, and one rolled forward to avoid the arrow's shot, but the savages behind him were not so lucky. Several people were directly shot down by arrows. A wonderful misunderstanding happened. The eagle soldiers thought that the savage was brought by Ronan to attack them, and the savage thought that Ronan had come here to find a companion. The savages watched their companions fall, and couldn't help roaring, and the speed became a little faster. As the distance got closer, the eagle soldiers also dropped their long bows, drew their machetes, and fought with the savages. Ronan was at this moment. He has quietly touched the edge of the battle group through the night, took out the longbow and kept putting cold arrows. In the pitch-black woods, only the bonfire set up by the eagle soldiers gave off a faint glow. The poorly equipped savages are no match for the well-equipped and well-trained eagle soldiers, and their numerical advantage is also constantly decreasing. As their companions continue to fall, many savages begin to fear. In addition to the 4 killed by Ronan's cold arrow, only 2 of the eagle soldiers died in the hands of the savages, especially one soldier who was protecting Amuda. Scimitar, in just a few minutes, nearly 5 savages have fallen by his side. Seeing the savages' defeat, many people turned around and fled. Ronan could only sneak behind the soldier after shooting an eagle soldier with a cold arrow once, and was ready to kill the most powerful one first. It looked familiar as if it was killed by the leader of the eagle. After getting close to the target, Ronan quickened his pace, and rushed towards the warrior, but the warrior was very keen, and immediately rushed forward after sensing the danger behind him, although he could not completely escape Ronan's attack, but only a small wound was drawn on the back waist. Ronan quickly took a step forward and slashed at the eagle warrior again. The warrior quickly turned over and blocked the long knife cut by Ronan with the scimitar in his right hand, and then lifted it up with the scimitar in his left hand. Able to push back and dodge. The soldier took this opportunity to get up quickly, bowed slightly, and faced Ronan with a knife in both hands. Ronan also strode his feet into a horse, holding the knife in both hands in the center of his body, with the tip of the knife tilted slightly downward to aim at the opponent. After the savage was completely defeated, he fell into a siege, and Ronan took the lead and slashed at the opponent. The soldier used the scimitar in his right hand to block it, and then wanted to use the scimitar in his left hand to slash at Ronan's abdomen. But Ronan didn't use his full force. Ronan pressed the knife down hard, then stepped with his left foot to the right and turned his body, avoiding the eagle warrior's left-hand machete and slashing the long knife towards the eagle warriors. There is no armor on the right knee. Ah! With a scream of pain, the soldier was cut off by Ronan's right hamstring, and he knelt down on one knee without any strength in his right leg. Then Ronan couldn't turn around due to his right leg injury, and turned his body again to reach the back of the eagle warrior and slashed at the back of his neck. He was also completely crawled to the ground by this knife. Then Ronan directly pierced his neck with the tip of the knife down through the gap between his two knives. With his neck pierced and unable to breathe, he spat out a splatter of blood and struggled for a few seconds, and finally fell to the ground. With a knife, he wiped the blood from the knife on the eagle warrior's clothes. Glancing at the anger, Ronan directly activated the fear incarnation skill. At this time, in the eyes of the two remaining eagle soldiers after killing the last savage and the eyes of Amuda hiding behind them, Ronan's image suddenly became terrifying. The mask on top seemed to have also turned into a hideous ghost face. Seeing Ronan slowly walking towards them with a knife, they could not help but back up in fear. Ronan took a step forward and they took a step back until one of the soldiers had a thick trunk behind him, and he seemed to be scared. He rushed up with a daring cry, and another soldier seemed to be inspired by him, and rushed up with a knife. Looking at the two soldiers rushing forward one after another, Ronan's heart was not fluctuating. He dodged the machete sideways, and at the same time slashed through the soldier's abdomen with both hands, and suddenly his stomach was broken. The soldier, the machete in his hand, fell. He knelt on the ground with his hands on his stomach, and slowly fell forward to die. He held the knife in both hands to hold the machete chopped by another soldier, kicked his crotch at the same time, grabbed his collar and threw it forward while he was staggering. When he fell forward, he chopped off his head with a knife. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com fell to the ground at the same time, but separated. Seeing this scene in the distance, Amuda sat directly on the ground, watching Ronan keep walking towards him and using his hands and feet to keep backing away, and he kept begging for mercy. "Don't kill me, I'm a member of the wolf family of the Eagle Kingdom, as long as you don't kill me, I can give you a lot of money, or whatever you want." Before he could finish speaking, Ronan took a step forward and inserted the long knife in his hand into his mouth. The long knife was pulled out, and the corpse fell to the ground without support. After wiping the knife with Amuda's clothes, he put the knife back into the scabbard. Nan found a tree root to sit down and study the newly unlocked recruitment system. This recruitment system is very powerful. It allows Ronan to summon soldiers from various camps in the game, including many troops in mod, but the number is affected by Ronan's charm attributes and leadership skills, as well as Ronan's reputation. The effect of the algorithm is the charm value multiplied by 2 plus the bonus of dominance skills. Ronan's current online is 30. The recruitment system will refresh 5 types of arms for Ronan to summon every day. The maximum number of recruits for each type cannot exceed 5 per day. The recruited arms can be upgraded to higher level arms through the accumulation of experience in battle. The recruited arms will always occupy an army until they die. Seats, so you can't recruit them casually, because you may encounter situations where you can't recruit after being refreshed to powerful units. You don't need anything else to recruit troops, just money. The price of troops in each level and country is different. You also need to pay a weekly salary for recruiting troops. If the debt is too large, the recruitment system will be permanently closed. At the same time, when completing Mission 2 to unlock the recruitment system and obtain 5 senior Nord shooters, a new mission was activated, Road to Knights, 20 subordinates recruited from the recruitment system. Rewards: Watcher Template, Watcher's Standard Armor, Executioner's Greatsword, and Armored Warhorse. Ronan already had 5 subordinates after completing the weekly task 2 and received the reward, so he only needed to recruit 15 people to complete this task, which was relatively easy to complete. Ronan returned to God from the system panel and looked at the 5 senior Nord shooters standing beside him. They suddenly appeared after Ronan received the quest reward. There was no omen or phenomenon. This point needs attention. I'm afraid it's time to carry someone behind my back. These 5 shooters are all male, with Nord-style beards and strong bodies, about 30 years old, wearing short-sleeved hard leather armor, iron wrist guards and leather gloves on their hands, and only leather protective gear, with a simple dome-covered iron helmet on his head, a longbow in his hand, a quiver in the back, and a short-handed fighting axe on the back waist. The equipment does not look well equipped. However, it is normal. The Nord Kingdom is famous for its powerful infantry. There is no cavalry in the country, and the bow and arrow troops lack attention. The strength is weaker than other kingdoms, but it is cheaper and easier to upgrade. Do you have names? Ronan looked at them and asked. No, my lord, said the archer closest to Ronan, bowing. Well, I'll call you numbers in the future. You are number 1, you are number 2. By the way, you should give yourself a name, which will be used when entering the town. Ronan could only give them numbering is convenient for his own command, after all, he has a terminal cancer name. You guys take care of the corpses nearby, and bring the useful things here. After that, we will continue to set off. We don't have much food and little fresh water. The next food and water should be troublesome for you. Yes, my lord. The 5 soldiers bowed and nodded together, then dispersed and got busy. Ronan continued to study the recruitment system while sitting on the root of the tree. The 5 arms that the system spawned today are all primary arms, and there are no fantasy arms in the mod. There are 2 groups of Nord recruits, Rodux, Vaegir recruits and Swadian recruits. Once the soldiers are recruited, they will occupy the small number of troops in Ronan, so Ronan is not prepared to recruit these junior troops. Make up the number to complete the task. After all, these arms are troublesome to cultivate and take time, and they cannot form instant combat power. The primary arms are not expensive, each recruit only needs 5 copper coins, and the weekly salary is only 1 copper coin. Now Ronan only has 10 gold coins for the mission reward and 12 found in the Eagle Corpse Collector, Pursuit and Amuda. Silver and 136 copper coins. According to the exchange rate in memory, 1 gold coin is roughly equal to 10 silver coins, 1 silver coin is roughly equal to 100 copper coins, and 1 copper coin can be exchanged for 5 copper horns. The exchange rates of coins in different countries are slightly different, but they are generally similar. Ronan's predecessor was paid only 1 silver coin a week for the lower knight's attendant, and a single gold coin would be enough for an ordinary family to live on for half a year. Put some useful loot collected by the 5 Nord shooters into his backpack. Ronan is ready to find a water source to wash himself after dawn. The armor on his body has not been taken off for several days, and his body is bloody. The combination of smell and sweat made Ronan very uncomfortable. Ronan, who was just an ordinary person before crossing, couldn't stand his current state at all. There is a large-scale savage tribe living nearby, which means that there must be a water source nearby, and Ronan can't wait. Let the 5 Nord shooters scattered around him to protect himself. Ronan stood up from the root of the tree, ready to go a little farther and find a place to spend the night first. After all, so many people died here, it is very likely that there will be predation in a while the savages came, and those savages might chase after the flames. Ronan was already very tired and didn't want to fight. In an open space about 2 miles away from the battle site, Ronan's 6 people stopped, raised a flame, set up a tent, and 5 shooters took turns to keep vigil. Ronan finally didn't have to do all this by himself, and there were people vigil at night to rest peacefully. Ronan not only sighed in his heart that it was convenient to have his subordinates. Nord's archers are basically experienced hunters. These people set up a temporary camp in no time. Ronan fell asleep in the tent not long after. Early the next morning, Ronan was aroused by a burst of aroma. He walked out of the tent with a breath. Ronan saw that a simple shelf had been set up on the bonfire outside, on which was placed the iron pot seized from the eagle pursuit team. Some meat and wild vegetables are stewed in it, the white soup is tumbling and smelling, the number 5 Nord shooter is standing beside him and stirring with a branch in his hand, and sprinkle some spices and salt into it from time to time. Number 1 saw Ronan walking out of the tent, so he hurried over, handed a roasted bird skewered on a branch to Ronan and said, "Here, my lord, this is what number 3 and number 4 called in the morning. Bird, number 5 is stewing with the dew collected from the leaves in the morning and a rabbit that number 2 caught, it will be ready soon, you can eat this first." Ronan took the roasted bird that looked like a dove. Read www.yuyugonshu.com was not polite. After blowing it twice, he broke off one leg with his hand and gnawed it. "Sit down with number 3. After a while, the broth was ready, and number 5 first filled Ronan with a wooden bowl that was also captured from the eagle pursuit, and then called the other brothers over to serve the soup. Dip the hard and dry noodles into the broth, let it absorb the soup and soften it up. After a bite of the noodles, a bite of the roasted bird, and a bite of the broth when he is thirsty, Ronan has eaten the best meal since he came to this world." A good meal came to an end slowly. "Eat and drink enough, pack up your belongings." The 6 of Ronan embarked on the journey again. It was almost noon when Ronan and the others finally found the water source. It was a small stream with clear water and no fish in it. It was only about a meter wide and a half meter deep. Fill the prepared water bag full of water, and Ronan plans to boil the water in a large pot at night to kill and sterilize it before drinking it. After all, modern education has taught him that drinking this wild raw water is a good idea. Very dangerous. After filling the water, Ronan asked number 3, number 4, number 5 to guard around him, and then asked number 1 and number 2 to help him take off his armor, then stripped off his clothes and jumped into the water with a thud, and happily took a bath. Downstream of him, number 1 and number 2 are helping him wash his armor and clothes. Looking at the young man with blonde hair and blue eyes in the reflection in the water, Ronan knew that he would not be able to go back, and he was comforted by the fact that he was quite handsome in this life, and it was estimated that he could deceive many little girls. After happily washing in the water for about half an hour, Ronan went ashore and put on the spare clothes he got from Amuda. After putting on the armor that was cleaned and dried by number 2, Ronan was ready to go on. It's not that he doesn't want to wash for a while, but the longer it takes, the more unsafe it is, and it's almost noon, they still have to find food for noon. Although the barbecue without any seasoning tastes average, it is much better than the dry and hard dry food. Number 1, they don't need Ronan to hunt at all, and their hunting skills are much better than Ronan's. They simply made a fire to solve an afternoon meal. Ronan and the others continued to move forward. To those ferocious predators, not even large animals. 10 days passed in this way, and Ronan did not encounter the fierce black bear until the weekly mission refreshed, but in these 10 days, he encountered a small wolf pack, a giant python, some lynx, wild boars, and other beasts, but in the end, they basically all entered the belly of Ronan and others, and the fang's fur was also put into the backpack by Ronan and prepared to sell for money after walking out of the forest. In the past 10 days, the recruitment store has not refreshed some powerful troops, but Ronan still recruited a group of 5 senior VCS soldiers to supplement the melee force, and numbered them as number 6 to number 10. After Ronan prepares, the recruited soldiers are ranked in the back according to this, knowing that the soldiers recruited after the sacrifice of the front will take the number position. As for the outside world, let them give themselves a name. The 5 veteran VCS soldiers wore studded leather armor that covered their legs, iron-clad boots that protected their calves, and leather-pointed helmets that were also inlaid with iron on their heads, with a part of the sides extending to protect their cheeks, leaving only a I-shaped opening on the front for viewing. Everyone has a standard Germanic sword and a zither-shaped iron-clad wooden shield in their hands. A total of 2 groups of veteran VCS soldiers were recruited that day, but considering that food and water sources might be insufficient, Ronan only recruited 1 group. Thanks to them, Ronan was able to win without injury in the previous wolf attack, and Ronan also knew that the damaged equipment of recruited soldiers could be purchased directly in the recruiting system. Ronan has completed 2 of the 3 weekly tasks refreshed this week. He only gained some gold coins, experience and a bottle of trauma medicine. Now Ronan is trying to see if he can complete the 3rd weekly task. Enemy of the gnolls: there is a small tribe of gnolls living on the road you must pass, and their territory is nearby. Destroying them will get rich rewards. Of course, you can also choose to avoid it. Reward: EXP 3000, Starfall Sword, excellent, Wolf Tooth Necklace, wonderful item. Due to the repeated battles and lack of maintenance, the Dianfo Tadeo in Ronan's hands has become blunt on the blade, and Ronan also wants to know what the effect of this new strange object is. Therefore, Ronan has already sent number 3, number 4, number 5 to find the location of the gnoll camp, because the mission is said to be on the way, so just be careful to explore forward. As for the others, Ronan also sent after hunting for oil. Ronan was ready to try again, setting their houses on fire with rockets at night, leading the Vikya soldiers in while they were in chaos, and the Nord shooters sniping behind them. The sky was getting dark, and Ronan and others were making final preparations not far from the gnoll camp. Ronan was sitting on a sturdy tree root outcropping the ground, wiping the Dianfo Tadeo in his hand with a rag, looking at the scarred man. The blade, Ronan said, after tonight's battle, you will officially retire, but don't worry, as a weapon to accompany me through the hardest time I just came to this world, I will not lose you. I will put you in my backpack. If I have my own permanent residence in the future, I will find a blacksmith to fix you and hang it on the display stand at home. This armor is just like yours. After a while, number 1 walked over to Ronan, who was closing his eyes and resting. Sir, the scheduled raid time has come. Ronan opened his eyes, and there was a cold killing intent in his eyes. Okay, let's go, kill all those wolf cubs with me. The surrounding soldiers didn't speak, they just bowed slightly, clenched their right fist and hammered their chest. In the dark forest, Ronan led the soldiers silently towards the location of the gnoll camp. In the silent night, there was only the sound of insects and bushes scratching on the armor. Arriving at the destination, Ronan pushed aside the branches and looked at the gnoll camp. The camp was not big, but it was indeed a small settlement. There were about 30 simple thatched cottages in the camp. Perhaps it was because the gnolls were not good at building their houses, it was even more shabby than the group of savages that Ronan encountered before. Perhaps it had been a long time since he had encountered creatures who dared to challenge them. The entire camp was silent and there was no gnoll vigil. Waving back to get the soldiers ready, with the screeching sound of blades unsheathed, the Vicious soldiers had drawn their Germanic swords and took off their shields and kicked in their hands, the Nord shooters in the back. They also began to wrap the arrows with oil and prepare to ignite. Following Ronan's instructions, the Nord shooters fired several rounds of rockets, accurately igniting most of the houses, and the gnolls rushed out of the house with a howl. This fire, their dry hair has become a good accelerant. They screamed and rolled on the ground to put out the flames. Some gnolls that were not ignited tried their best to put out the fire. One of the tall gnolls was particularly eye-catching. 2 meters tall, which is a whole head taller than the average jackal of 1.7 meters. He was wearing a set of armor sewn from worn animal skins, and he actually held a rust-covered thorn in his hand. A lot of chain hammers. At this time it is beckoning other gnolls to pick up weapons to find the enemy. Seeing that the panic-stricken gnoll tribe under the gnolls organization had a tendency to stabilize, Ronan knew that the opportunity could not be missed, so he took out his dagger and rushed out, followed by 5 Vicious soldiers and Nord shooters. Continue to hide behind the bushes and shoot cold arrows. Seeing Ronan and others rushing out, the gnoll leader roared angrily, waved his hand, and several gnolls around him rushed towards Ronan. Except for the gnoll leader, the gnolls were more rudimentary, and their bodies were basically no armor, just a wooden spear, stone axe, and simple mace in his hands. Sideways dodged the wooden spear that was stabbed, and at the same time clamped the arm of the knoll holding the spear with his left arm, and used his body to drive it to rotate it against the direction of the stone axe that the other knoll had slashed over. After the knoll let out a slightly frightened roar, Ronan pierced his heart, bent down, picked up the wooden spear, and threw it hard at the knoll leader. At the same time, the Wikius soldiers also rushed up. They held their shields in front of them and used their momentum to knock down the knoll who was also charging, and then stabbed him to death with a sword. A wooden spear pierced by the knoll. It was immediately broken when it hit the iron-clad shield, and only the Vicious soldier who was attacked by the knoll with a mace took a few steps back. Watching the Vicious soldiers form a battle to block the rushing knolls, and Nord shooters' support in the distance, Ronan rushed towards the knoll leader, soldiers against soldiers, and generals, very reasonable. The knoll leader sideways dodged the wooden spear thrown by Ronan, watched Ronan rush towards it, bared his teeth, let out a low roar, and ran with the chain hammer in his hand. When the distance between the two sides was less than 3 meters, Ronan suddenly knelt down on both knees, leaned back, and used the momentum brought by inertia to slide on the ground. The knee pads on his legs made 2 marks on the soft soil. Ronan borrowed it. This posture avoided the chain hammer coming from the knoll leader, and at the same time used a knife to cut a wound on its unprotected calf, but its fur was very tough. Ronan did not use force in this posture, and the cut wound not deep. Sliding behind the knoll leader, Ronan quickly stood up with his hands on the ground, and when it was too old to turn around, he slashed again at the bend of its right knee. This time it screamed in pain, and its right leg almost fell to its knees. It turned around and threw the chain hammer angrily, but was dodged by Ronan by jumping back. The knoll leader behaved well this time, and he made the chain hammer dance like a forbidden area within 1 meter in front of him. Ronan was completely unable to approach it, and could only use his superb agile steps to deal with it. The subordinates take out the other gnolls and deal with it together. The fight you chased me lasted nearly 3 minutes, and when the gnoll leader came back to his senses, it was already surrounded. The Vicious soldiers picked up the gnoll's wooden spear and surrounded it with a shield in one hand and a spear in the other. It looked at the gnoll corpses and the burning thatched hut all around, with a look of sadness and anger in its eyes. It roared up to the sky, and rushed in the direction in front of it like a trapped beast. It blocked the wooden spear that came over, and slammed the chain hammer on the shield of the Vicious soldier in front of him. The huge force directly hit the soldier. When they got to the ground, there were serious dents on the shield. But at the same time, the wooden spears in the other 4 directions had also pierced into its body. It spat out a mouthful of blood and raised the chain hammer to attack, but at this time Ronan stepped behind him on the slanted shield of a Vicious soldier. It was used as a springboard and slashed into the back of its unarmored neck. Although the heavy knife failed to cut off its thick neck, it also cut off half of its neck bone. It could only keep bleeding from its mouth. After it knelt on the ground weakly, its upper body slowly fell to the ground. It's a strong enemy, but it's a pity, your equipment is too poor, and the quality of your subordinates is not good enough. He took out a piece to wipe off the blood on the knife, put it back into the scabbard, and said to his subordinates, "Clean up the battlefield, collect the spoils, control the fire, don't let it spread, I want to study the task reward." Xingyun is a tachi about the same length as Dianfu, but its attributes are much stronger, and it is different from Dianfu in that its blade is black like ink, only the blade glows white, and the blade and handle are very simple. According to the introduction, this knife is made of meteorite, which is sharp and durable, and will not be damaged easily. Ronan confirmed this after touching it with the eagle machete. Xingyun was unharmed, but the eagle machete left a deep gap. And the wolf tooth necklace is really just a necklace made of wolf teeth. There are 3 wolf teeth that are a circle larger than ordinary wolf teeth on a string, but after wearing it, it can increase 1 point of agility. After Ronan took it, he thought it was quite handsome. At this time, the subordinates had already cleaned the battlefield, except for some herbs and jerky stored by the gnoll, there was nothing to gain. Because he didn't know what to use to make the jerky, Ronan just threw it away, because he heard that the wild gnoll had the habit of eating the same clan, and Ronan has no interest in eating gnolls. After simply resting for a few minutes, Ronan and the others were ready to return to the temporary resting place they found earlier. The battle was not bad, except that the soldier who was hammered by the gnoll leader on the shield may have a fractured arm. Most of the other soldiers only suffered some minor skin trauma, and the trauma medicine obtained in the previous mission was just right. Come in handy. After walking in the forest for nearly 2 weeks, Ronan and the others finally walked out of the forest. During this period, they encountered 2 tribes of wild men, a tribe of gnolls, a tribe of lizardmen, and a group of forest goblins and several beasts. Attack! But the most dangerous thing was to encounter a ferocious black bear. The bear stood upright and was nearly 3 meters tall. It was huge and the arrows shot at him without pain. Fortunately, Ronan had recruited 2 groups of Rhodoks who were skilled spearmen. These soldiers in chainmail shirts, hoods, and iron helmets, armed with spears and large shields, formed a spear formation, and with the help of Viking soldiers and Nord archers, they were worthy of killing this one black bear. But Ronan's troops also suffered heavy losses. The soldiers couldn't withstand a single attack from the black bear. The black bear's dying counterattack killed 6 Rhodok spearmen and 3 Visia soldiers. Yukanshu. Kam also had a Nord shooter who was seriously injured and could not get the corresponding medical treatment and died during the subsequent journey. Rhodes had to bury them on the spot. Ronan peeled off the skin of the black bear, and the meat was eaten directly, and what could not be eaten was thrown away. Ronan also tasted the bear's paw that he could not eat in his previous life, but it is estimated that it is the method and seasoning. The reason, Ronan did not feel delicious. After recruiting 2 groups of Rhodok skilled spearmen, Ronan also completed the mission of the Road of Knights, but he did not receive the reward directly, because the full set of knight plate armor is inconvenient and heavy in the forest, and it is only suitable for the battlefield. And the terrain of this forest is not suitable for warhorse action. Through the weekly tasks and killing enemies in the past 2 weeks, Ronan has also risen to level 10. After he increased his agility points to 20, he felt a significant change. It seems that 20 points is a watershed. After reaching 20 points of agility, it is easy to see the trajectory of the arrows shot by the Nord archer, and he can even catch the arrows shot by the weak bows with his bare hands. This was discovered when he was at war with a savage tribe. Therefore, when Ronan prepares to upgrade, he first increases his strength and stamina to 20 points, and then adds charm, strengthens himself first, and increases the number of his team. Moreover, Ronan found that every 5th level could unlock a feat to strengthen himself, and each time he chose one of 3, Ronan chose Keen Intuition at level 5, and he chose the Ape Arm at level 10. Sharp Intuition, your intuition is enhanced, giving you alerts when you face danger. Ronan tried it out. He asked a Nord shooter to aim at him with an arrow behind him. When he was aimed, Ronan felt numbness in his back. Ape Arm, your arms are extremely strong, you gain a +1 strength bonus to your arms, and you can wield normal two-handed weapons with one hand. Walking out of the forest, Ronan and the others were in a state of embarrassment, and the wooden armor on Ronan's body was broken. During this period of time, no water source could be found. After the previous water was used up, only dew water could be collected and used. It was impossible to take a bath. Everyone was disgraced, and the blood on the armor could not be cleaned. At this time, Ronan's troops were only left with 4 Rhodok skilled spearmen, 4 Nord senior archers, and 2 Visia riders. That's right, those 2 Visian senior soldiers have gone through such a long period of time. They were upgraded after the battle, but Ronan only upgraded them after he knew they had walked out of the forest. The reason was also because it was not convenient to ride in the forest. The studded leather armor on the 2 Visia riders was upgraded to protect the thighs and the legs with slits on the sides of the chain tunic, chain gloves on their hands, and horses with breastplates on their chests, except after the long sword and shield he had at the beginning, there was an extra spear and a cavalry battle axe, and his level also reached level 21, much higher than Ronan. Ronan also received the reward of the Knight's Path quest, and suddenly a full armored warhorse and a box with an armored sword appeared in front of Ronan's eyes, and Ronan also blessed the Guardian template, which added a little bit of strength and stamina. The Warden's combat experience and the use of weapons also flashed in his mind. After a full 10 minutes, Ronan regained his senses. Ronan put the armor and the great sword into his backpack first, and with the help of his subordinates, took off the broken wisteria wood armor. Ronan turned over and rode on the war horse. Patting the horse's head under him, Ronan said, "I'll call you Radish from now on." He waved his subordinates to follow. Ronan took the lead and chose a direction to walk. Ronan and the Vesia cavalry walked slowly on horses, and the other soldiers were struggling. Without horses, they could only walk. Ronan had never ridden a horse in his last life, but fortunately, the caretaker had experience in horseback riding, and with the assistance of the riding skills that Ronan had ordered to level 6, Ronan could ride a horse with ease. After walking for about an hour, a path finally appeared in front of Ronan's eyes. He was overjoyed. He couldn't wait to find a place to wash and rest. Let the subordinates quicken their pace, find a direction along the path and walk. God bless, Ronan was looking in the right direction. After walking for about half an hour, a small town finally appeared in front of his eyes. Finally, when he saw a human settlement, Ronan was so excited that he could not wait to ride his horse and run wildly. But considering the movement speed of his subordinates, he still restrained. The town in front is not small, and there is a wall around 3 meters high. It is estimated that it was built because of the proximity of the forest and to defend against aliens and beasts running out of the forest. There are 2 towers on each side of the town gate. Guard, wearing leather armor with a short bow in his hand. There are also guards guarding the gate. Watching Ronan and the others come over, noticing the bloodstains on Ronan's armored horse and the equipment of the soldiers behind him, the guards greeted him. "Wait a minute, this is Jackdaw Town, the autonomous town of the Holy Cross country, who are you?" The guard reached out and stopped Ronan. Ronan was already prepared for this. "Hello sir, we are a small mercenary group. I want to come here to see if there is a chance to make a fortune in the forest." Ronan took out 2 silver coins from his arms and handed it to the guard. The guard took the silver coins, glanced at Ronan's team again, and moved away. "Don't make trouble after entering the city, God will watch you." "Sir, I would like to ask, where is the hotel in the town?" "Walk along this road and you can see it. There is a sign called Mare Hanging Flag." When asked about the way, Ronan didn't hesitate. He led his men directly to the tavern called Mare Hanging Flag. After taking off Carrot's vest and handing over the 3 horses to the tavern attendant standing outside the door, Ronan and his subordinates pushed open the door of the tavern and walked in. Passing through the noisy crowd, Ronan went straight to the bar, knocked on the table to attract the attention of the boss who was wiping the wine glasses, and Ronan said, "Boss, open 6 rooms for me, and what do you have to eat here? Can you take a shower? Now the food is only bread, mashed potatoes, and barbecued meat, and it is basically cold. If you want to eat hot food, you can only wait until 6 o'clock in the evening. There is a bathtub in our room. If you want to take a bath, you can ask the servants to give it to you. You draw water to boil water, but you have to pay extra." Ronan listened and put 2 gold coins on the table. "Prepare a little of each food for me and send it to each room. Let the servants boil the water. We are going to live here for a while. These gold coins are put on you first. It's not enough. Tell me." After listening to this, the tavern owner called the servant to come over and instructed him, and then the servant brought Ronan and the others to the upstairs room. Each of the soldiers had a room, and Ronan himself had a room. Reading www.yuyuganshu.com. The room is not big and the decoration is very simple. There are only 2 beds, a table, and a clothes rack, and there is a wooden bathtub in the corner. When the servant was preparing the bath water for Ronan, Ronan asked the servant, "I came here for the first time, can you introduce me to the Holy Cross country and this town?" "Okay, my lord, the Holy Cross country is a theocratic country, and it believes in Maya, the goddess of light. Jackdaw town is named because it is close to the Jackdaw forest. The mayor is also the bishop of the church. Most of the guards in the town are guarded by the church. Made up of militiamen recruited from the town. Jackdaw town was named after the Jackdaw forest and also because of the Jackdaw forest. Jackdaw town is the only town within 100 miles nearby. The Jackdaw forest is rich in products and contains many precious medicinal materials and animals. Therefore, many adventurers from all over the world come here hoping to make a fortune in the forest. The neighborhood is also quite chaotic. From time to time, aliens run out of the forest. There are also many robbers on the largest commercial road nearby. The guards of Jackdaw town are insufficient, so mercenary groups are often hired to expel and destroy aliens and robbers. This has led to the town is full of mercenaries and adventurers, and it is a well-known adventure holy place in the Holy Cross country. Oh, so, is there anything worth noting in this town? Ronan thought to himself that it was no wonder that the guard let him in easily after he said he was a mercenary. The more famous ones in the town are the cathedral and the mercenary guild. The church is in the center of the town, and the mercenary guild was established by the mayor for the convenience of management, just opposite our tavern. "Sir, when the water is boiled, I will go out first. I'll bring you your food later. You're calling me if you need it." After Ronan responded, he couldn't wait to take off his clothes and walk to the tub. He reached out and tried it. The water temperature was just right, so Ronan went straight in.